So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise.
DMX rolled into a Toronto club thinking it'd be just another wild night to relax until he locked eyes with Prince, and not just a glance. Prince had that look, the kind that stops you cold. DMX later said the whole thing felt like getting schooled by your grandfather. And for a man like X, that says everything. Now, if you know DMX, you know this is the same man who once claimed he could have made sure there wouldn't even be a Ja Rule if he really wanted. So what in the world could Prince, the soft-spoken, purple-suited legend, possibly say to this Yonkers pit bull that left him shook? Let's dive in. Chapter 1. DMX, from Yonkers to global kingpin. Born Earl Simmons on December 18, 1970 in Mount Vernon, New York, and raised in the hard streets of Yonkers, his early life was a storm. Raised by his single mother, Annette Simmons, in a neighborhood where danger was the norm, love was in short supply. He faced beatings, harsh words, and nights where survival meant making the streets his home. By age 7, Earl was already in and out of group homes. He found comfort not in people, but in stray dogs. Their loyalty and raw fury spoke to him. That bond became part of his soul, even shaping his name, DMX, short for Darkman X. His first arrest came in 1986, stealing a dog, landing him 2 years in juvenile detention. By his teenage years, DMX was a force you couldn't ignore. He was boxing, rapping, and tearing up local freestyle battles with a fire no one could match. Whether spitting bars with his hands cuffed behind his back in a juvenile center or going toe-to-toe with MCs in Yonkers parks after dark, X wasn't just rapping, he was bleeding his pain into every word. His rough start didn't just shape his music, it shaped the man. Street life wasn't something DMX dipped in and out of. It was stitched into him. Jermaine Dupri once shared a wild story that painted the picture perfectly. While working on his album Life in 1942, Dupri set up a studio session in New York with DMX. Wanting to make it a moment, he invited a journalist, rumored to be from The Source, to document it all. The reporter showed up early, before anyone else. Then in walks DMX, flanked by 2 massive dogs like it was his personal security team. What happened next? Dupri hadn't even arrived yet when the reporter was already rattled.
I wrote it, you know what I'm saying? I paid the for the beat. I paid you for loaning me the money, you know what I'm saying? I paid you back your money. Now we splitting because you loaned me the money. Yeah. But you own my I don't owe you a thing. Why is you holding on to my
Yeah.
And that's standard.
X stepped up, grilled the man on who he was and what he was carrying. No weapons needed, just raw presence. His dog stood ready, teeth bared, eyes locked. DMX simply told him to run everything, and the guy didn't argue. No punches, no gunshots, just the growl of a man and his animals. That's the DMX you need to picture before we get to the moment he met Prince, a man whose legend didn't just live in his lyrics, but in how he owned any room he walked into. Chapter 2, Prince, the Purple Strategist. The world knew Prince for his music, his mystery, and his electrifying style that felt almost unreal. But behind the glitter and silk was a mind sharper than steel. He wasn't just a genius musician. He was a full-blown empire in one body, an artist, a mentor, a visionary, and a man who fought tooth and nail to control every note, every deal, every move. By the time Prince left this world, his work ethic was the stuff of legend. We're talking 39 albums in 40 years, almost one every single year.
Will do well, the majority will not.
And here's the jaw dropper. Insiders say he wrote anywhere from 500 to 1,000 songs, with a treasure chest of unreleased tracks still locked away in his vault. Prince didn't just make music, he breathed it. The studio was his kingdom, and sometimes he'd drop an entire album in a week, or craft a full song, vocals, instruments, mixing, in a single day. This wasn't about speed, it was about catching lightning in a bottle. One studio engineer recalled him going 40 hours straight, chasing the exact emotion a track needed. He often kept the first or second take, not because it was flawless, but because it was real. Prince's climb started early. Signed to Warner Brothers as a teenager, by 1978, he was dropping his debut album, For You. And here's where it gets wild. He wrote it, produced it, arranged it, played every instrument, sang every note, and even engineered it himself. Warner tried saddling him with an executive producer, but Prince shut that down fast. Total control was non-negotiable, and he got it. Then came 1984, Purple Rain, the movie and the album. launched him into global superstardom. Tracks like When Doves Cry, Let's Go Crazy, and The Haunting Purple Rain proved he wasn't following anyone's rules but his own. His style was just as daring, blurring the lines between gender, fashion, and expectation. Over the years, he had around 3,000 custom high heels made by Andre No. 1, usually in his signature purple shades. Those iconic Prince heels, they weren't just for show. They had reinforced soles built for high-voltage, sweat-dripping all-night performances. And forget fancy tech like 3D scanning. Prince wanted everything handmade, straight from the heart. At his Paisley Park compound, his in-house designers worked from his midnight sketches and spur-of-the-moment ideas. Lace, sequins, wild silhouettes, raw stitching. He wore it all like walking art. But behind the glitter, a war was brewing. By the late 80s and early 90s, Prince was boiling with frustration at Warner Brothers. Their one album per year rule made 0 sense for a man who could knock out songs daily. So he played his own game. He launched Paisley Park Records in 1985 and later NPG Records by 1993. Then the fight went nuclear. He ditched his name, became a symbol, and started hitting the stage with slave painted across his face. It wasn't just shock value, it was a statement. For Prince, it was simple. If you don't own your masters, your master owns you, and he meant it. In 1996, after finally delivering his last contractual albums, he declared emancipation. Literally. Free at last, he moved fast. His new label meant total creative control, and he didn't just release music, he rewrote the rules. Direct-to-fan drops through NPG Music Club, surprise albums like Lotus Flow 3R, and No Middleman in Sight. On many records, Prince still composed, arranged, produced, engineered, and played every instrument. Dirty Mind and his self-titled album were early proof that Prince didn't just make records, he built entire worlds by himself. He fused rock, funk, pop, jazz, and electronica, sometimes all in the same track, bending genres like they were his personal playthings. From Sign of the Times to Love Sexy, his sound was always evolving, a non-stop storm of creativity. In the studio, he was a one-man orchestra, layering dozens of instruments himself. Outside producers? Forget it. He refused them flat out. When Warner execs tried interfering with his debut, he kicked them out and doubled down on total control. And whenever he had a mic or an interview, he'd tell anyone listening just how crooked the music industry really was. If you're under contract, you're only getting a slice, the smallest slice, he'd say. Chapter 3, DMX and Prince, When Two Worlds Collide. There are moments in life that hit you deep. Not loud or flashy, but like a clean shot straight to the soul.
Advance and 2 cents off every game we sell.
They know what they're doing.
$50 game. You giving me 2 cents? Let me think about that for a minute.
One conversation, one person, one truth, and suddenly, you're questioning everything you thought you knew. For DMX, that person was Prince. Even Cat Williams once said Prince was someone he looked up to. But for DMX, a man who didn't bow to anyone, this was different. Picture it. Toronto, early 2000s. DMX had just wrapped filming scenes for Exit Wounds. The club is lit, music thumping, X is in his zone, raw energy, full swagger. Then the air shifts, and in glides Prince. Not just anyone, Prince. Small in stature, but towering in presence. He's rocking heels, a lace shirt, a velvet suit, moving like he's part rock star, part spirit, untouchable in every way. Prince was this rare mix of magic and mystery, the kind of man people struggled to define. Was he shy, arrogant, a straight-up genius? Maybe all three at once.
Sat down and schooled me, I felt like a little kid.
In a good way.
I felt like
he's the OG.
Like my
grandfather think about it.
smacked me like, what the f is wrong with you?
His image had layers, and plenty of people didn't know what to make of it. Even DMX admitted folks would clown on him. Heels, glitter, that calm, almost soft-spoken energy. They'd joke and call him Prince Gangsta, like, how could a guy in platforms possibly be tough? But that's exactly why what happened next flipped DMX's whole perspective. That night, Prince wasn't the glittery pop star people pictured. Not to DMX, not even close. He walked in quiet but powerful, the kind of presence that made the room shift without a single word. Then he motioned for DMX to come over. X didn't hesitate. Prince's voice was calm, measured, but carried weight. He signaled to security, and instantly, the club responded. Tables moved, people stepped back. Half the room cleared just so these two could sit down. face to face, no distractions. For over an hour, it was just them. And here's the thing, DMX had been around heavyweights before. Jay-Z, Tupac, even dangerous street crews like the Latin Kings. He knew leaders, he knew power. But Prince was something different. They didn't waste time on small talk or music industry gossip. They went straight to the deep stuff.
We had a club. And Prince comes in, with this big security guard. We go to the side, whatever. He's like,
He pointed at you and said like, yeah. Can't just say that, X.
Ownership, purpose, the meaning behind the grind. No performance, no ego, just truth. And in that moment, all the jokes, all the stereotypes, gone. Prince didn't just earn DMX's respect, he rewired it. Years later, DMX would still talk about that night with fire in his eyes. And when a man who survived the streets, the fame, and the chaos says Prince left a mark, you don't just hear it, you feel it. Because sometimes the realest wisdom comes from the last person you thought would deliver it. That night in a Toronto club, two legends crossed paths, not trading egos, not sizing each other up, but locking in on something real. No hype, no beef, just truth. And from the way it went down, it was clear. DMX wasn't there to talk. He was there to listen. Chapter 4, Masters. What you're about to hear, this isn't some recycled industry gossip. This came straight from a man who'd been burned by record labels, fought for control, and had the rare talent to back it all up. The conversation lasted about an hour, but it stayed with DMX for years.
What was it like being around DMX?
DMX was dangerous, man. Like, not dangerous, but he's like, when you around him, he's like, you don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Very unpredictable.
Right.
One of the biggest things Prince drilled into him was about masters. Most people outside the music game don't really get it. The master recording is the original highest quality version of a song or album, the source every copy comes from. Whether it's on Spotify, a CD, vinyl, or even chopped up for a TikTok clip, it all traces back to that one master file. And here's where Prince's voice got sharp. Whoever owns the master owns the music, period. He broke it down with a simple analogy. It's like land. If you own the land, you can rent it, sell it, build on it, or leave it empty. But if someone else owns it, they make the calls. You're just living there. In the music world, especially for new artists, record labels flip the script fast. They make you sign away those masters before you even understand what you're giving up. Owning the master isn't just about pride. It's about power. If an artist doesn't own it, they can't control where the song gets used, how much it's licensed for, or even if it ever sees the light of day again. And when the money starts rolling in, the label eats first. The artist might get crumbs, but they're never calling the shots. Prince hammered that point home. If you listened to him when he was alive, you'd know those were his fighting words. To understand why that moment with DMX hit so deep, you have to know the war Prince waged in the 90s. By then, he wasn't just famous, he was one of the biggest artists on earth. But here's the twist. He didn't own the very music that made him a legend. He wrote it, played it, produced it, sang it, lived it, but it still belonged to Warner Brothers. So Prince did what no one saw coming. He went to war. When Warner refused to hand over his masters, he changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol. He hit the stage with "slave" scrawled across his face. He stopped responding to Prince entirely and demanded to be called the artist formerly known as Prince. People called him eccentric, dramatic, even crazy, but he wasn't looking for attention. He was making a statement that cut deep. If you don't own your masters, you don't own your music. And if you don't own your music, you don't own your legacy. After breaking free, Prince flipped the script completely, releasing music on his own terms, building his own distribution network, and even selling albums directly to fans alongside concert tickets. This was before streaming, before social media. Prince already saw the future. He knew the power of cutting out the middleman. Eventually, he regained control of his masters. But for him, that was just the start. He'd set a standard. He'd proven you could say no, fight back, and win.
He was born Prince Rogers Nelson. And by the age of 7, he was playing the piano. It's just one of the many instruments he's mastered over the years. He's written songs for the most popular singers of the day and has gotten countless awards. This is the baddest man around.
His infamous interviews, his slave face paint, his public protests, all of it made one thing clear. Prince was never scared to speak the truth, even when it made people uncomfortable. And as time went on, his fight evolved. It wasn't just about bad contracts or faceless corporations anymore. He started naming names. One name he brought up more than once, Sean Diddy Combs. Prince didn't hate Diddy's hustle. In fact, he respected the grind. But what disturbed him was how some of Diddy's partnerships and quiet backroom alliances seemed to prop up the very system Prince had spent decades trying to tear down. To Prince, this wasn't about ownership anymore. It was about influence. Who held it, how they used it, and whether they were lifting artists up or locking them into the same old chains, just with more glitter on them. Another thing that burned him, the way labels and execs stopped caring about the content of music, only the cash it brought in. Values, culture, meaning, all fading in the background, replaced with a single question. Will it sell? And to Prince, that was a dangerous game, one the industry was playing with no shame. So here's the question. Did DMX take Prince's advice? Did he fight for his masters and flip the script? Sadly, this story doesn't close with a fairy tale comeback. That night with Prince was powerful, no doubt, but it didn't instantly change the course of DMX's career, not because he didn't want it, but because by then, too much damage had already been done. The contracts, the lawsuits, the addiction battles, all tangled together with bad deals he'd signed early on. DMX had exploded onto the scene like a storm. In less than 3 years, he dropped 5 multi-platinum albums, a record most rappers still haven't touched. The world saw the fame, the platinum plaques, the sold-out shows, but behind the curtain, the money wasn't flowing to him the way it should. The truth, he didn't own his masters. The hits that defined his legacy, Rough Riders Anthem, Slippin', Party Up, were locked up under the label's control. And once you've signed those masters away in your first contracts, getting them back is a brutal, expensive fight, one that can drag on for years, if it's even possible at all. Even after that heart-to-heart with Prince, DMX didn't have the legal firepower or financial muscle to undo those deals. And the cold reality? The industry isn't built for artists to take their power back, especially not when they're also fighting personal demons. By 2013, it hit rock bottom. DMX filed for bankruptcy. Court papers showed he had about $50,000 in assets, but over $1 million in debt. For a man whose music had generated millions for other people, that was crushing. He owed child support, legal fees, and back taxes. On top of that, his legal history made booking shows harder, cutting off one of the last lifelines he had to rebuild. There were even whispers that DMX didn't have full access to his own royalty checks. And that's the harsh truth. When an artist doesn't own their masters, survival depends on touring and live shows. But when that grind gets cut short, whether from addiction, prison time, health issues, or simply aging out of the road life, the financial foundation starts to crack. So here's the haunting what if. What if DMX had gotten his masters? DMX was never broken the way outsiders imagined, but his spirit, that took hits. He said it himself more than once. Money was never the goal. He didn't rap to stack millions. He rapped to be heard, to release the pain, to make sense of it. But the industry he stepped into wasn't built for healing. It was built for profit. And when the check stopped, the world stopped listening. There's no solid proof that DMX ever regained his masters before his passing in 2021. Most of his catalog stayed locked under Def Jam and Rough Riders. Rumors floated that his estate might fight to reclaim them, but so far, nothing official. And that's the real heartbreak. Not just that he left too soon, but that a man who poured everything into his music never truly owned what he created. Imagine painting your masterpiece and being told you'll never hang it in your own home. Still, something did shift after that night with Prince. It wasn't about contracts or lawyers. It was about mindset. DMX left that club not just as a rapper, but as a man who'd been reminded of the one thing no label could take, his voice and the truth it carried. After that night, DMX started speaking differently. He began pulling the curtain back on the business side of music, warning younger artists about signing deals without reading every line. He spoke with more clarity, more awareness. Even if he couldn't untangle his own contracts, he was planting seeds so others wouldn't get trapped the same way. That's why Prince's message was bigger than one man. It wasn't just for DMX. It was for every artist already in the game and every kid with a mic dreaming of a deal. Prince made DMX look inward, and DMX turned around and told others to be more than just voices on wax. He wanted them to own their voices. The DMX Prince story isn't just about music. It's about legacy, about what you leave behind when the lights go out. Prince showed DMX that being a gangster isn't only about surviving the streets. It's about surviving the industry. It's about guarding your art, protecting your name, and refusing to let the world buy and sell your soul like it's just another product. DMX may not have lived to own it all, but he lived long enough to understand it. And sometimes that shift, that awakening, is the real victory. So what do you think? Should artists today be fighting harder for their masters, or has the game changed too much? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, share this story, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss the real ones like this.